Hey, what's going on? Tonight, I'm heading to the house. I worked all day and I'm heading home. So, listen, the older I get, the more I learn to have patience in this world. The more I learn to just sit back and listen. The more I listen, the more I learn. In this world, I try not to be a know-it-all. Even though at times I do know it all. Meaning, like when somebody tells me something, when somebody tries to explain stuff to me, or when somebody just tells me stuff, you know, in my mind, I may be thinking, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I know how to do that. Or yeah, I know that. In my mind, I might be thinking that, but I'm listening to that person. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Because you know what? Even though I may know it, that person may be actually telling me something to actually help me, and I might not know it like I think I know it. He may be telling me something, a better way to doing it than I did. So, you know, I try to tell my kids, and a lot of times when you start a job, if you start a new job, you know, the best thing you can do is not act like you know it all. Because when you start acting like you know it all, when people get the feeling like you know it all, like people can't tell you stuff, then it's going to be hard for people to actually help you out. Because, you know, if somebody tries to tell you something and you say, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I already know that. Well, you know, one day you might not know something, and that person probably will not help you because you are already labeled a know-it-all. So listen, try not to be a know-it-all in this world. Even though you might know it, sit back and listen. Just listen. You may actually learn a better way of doing it. Because look, when I hired out as a conductor for CSX, I trained with a lot of conductors. And you know, after 10 trips on a train, it was pretty much doing the same thing over and over again, just different situations. So each conductor that I rode with, you know, they had their own way of doing it. So I pretty much took what each conductor taught me and maybe just made my own way of doing it. So that taught me, you know, if I was a know-it-all, they probably wouldn't have taught me nothing. And just like when I became an engineer and started training to run the locomotive, I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah, I went through the school, but prior to that, I didn't have no throttle time at all. So when I started training as a locomotive engineer, I rode with a lot of good engineers, and they all taught me different ways of running that locomotive. So then again, I took what they taught me and made it my own. So, you know, in life, as we go through life, especially, you know, if you are a teenager listening to my podcast, and hopefully, you know, I hope that a lot of teenagers do listen to my podcast, because I have 4 kids. So I know my 17-year-old and especially my 12-year-old, you know, a lot of times they think they know it all. You know, me and Mary, my wife Mary, we can tell them stuff, and yeah, I already know. Well, no, you don't. You don't know. So if you are a teenager in this world, listen to people. You know, the first thing you want to do, and I've done it when I was young. I know I've done it. The first thing you want to do when somebody tells you stuff is to start talking. You start talking, and you're going to miss half the information that is given to you. So I'm telling you, one day you will realize that if you just listen to people, listen to the information that is given to you, you will actually learn from what is given to you. Because you will miss certain stuff that's thrown at you. And you know, like when I tell stories a lot of times, it's kind of short. I think men tend to go straight to the point. And women sometimes, like, I love it when my wife she'll start, you know, telling a story, telling me about something that's happened during her day. And, you know, she'll tell me everything. Like, instead of just going right to the point, she'll tell me, like, kind of like you're reading the book. She'll tell me the whole thing just to get to that point. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand that. You know, I wish I can do that. I wish I can tell information like my wife does, you know, but I have to learn to engage in that conversation. I have to engage in that conversation. That way I will get the point that she's telling me. And I love it. I love it when she does that. But you know, just like when your teacher, if you're in school, your teacher's gonna give you information. You know, just like if you go to church, your preacher will give you information. You know, he's got a story behind what he's telling you to get to the point. Your friends, you know, the radio station, the news, you know, a lot of that, when you're watching a movie, you know, you have to listen and you have to watch from the beginning to get the end. Start paying attention to the little details that people tell you. That way you will understand fully what they are saying to you. So again, if you're a teenager, you're going through school, you know, and your parents trying to tell you something, listen with your ears first and then respond. You know, and I know you might be listening with your ears, but in your mind you're probably like, hurry up and tell me what you're trying to tell me. Hurry up and tell me what you're trying to tell me. That way I can get on with my life. But I'm telling you, when the older I get, the more wise I guess I am, but I tend to listen more than I try to speak. And yeah, you know, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, but I hope that I become a person that listens. And I ride with a lot of engineers, and you know, I think God gives me that. I think I have a talent where I listen to people and I help them out, because a lot of engineers tell me a lot of stuff that, you know, sometimes I think, you know, why are they telling me all this stuff? But I listen and I help them out, you know, and I love to be a person that helps people out. So listen, if you are listening to this podcast, be a person that listens first and then responds after. As a conductor, as a trainman on transportation, on that train, we have to receive information from our dispatcher, from our yard master, and sometimes train masters. So we have to listen to the information that's given to us. That way we know what track to go to, how many cars to cut off, how many cars to pick up. You know, we have to listen to all of that information. And then we have to write it down, but we have to remember it. You know, if the yard master is giving us information and we start talking, we're not going to hear what they are saying. So, you know, don't be a know-it-all in this world. Do not be a know-it-all, because you will be labeled a know-it-all and nobody will want to help you because you already know everything. So don't be a know-it-all. and try to listen more in this world. You know, that's just some of the information that I'm thinking about as I'm driving home tonight. You know, I try my best, and hopefully, I hope my wife, I hope she knows that I try to listen. I hope my kids know I try to listen. I just try to be a person who listens first. So, this is coming from my heart, just trying to help you out. A lot of times, I try to look in the mirror, and it's like I'm speaking to myself. I'm telling myself, hey, you need to listen more. You don't need to be a know-it-all. So a lot of times, if you are listening to my podcast, I'm actually preaching to myself. I'm actually speaking to myself. And by doing that, hopefully it's going to help you out. So thank y'all for listening to this podcast. Hopefully you will love these podcasts I'm trying to give y'all. It's all motivational and it's all encouragement. It's all from God. God gives me these messages, so I'm just going to give it to you. Thank y'all for listening to my podcast. Can't stop, won't stop. Keep on keeping on. Thank y'all for listening to my podcast. Hopefully y'all will keep on listening. Until next time, y'all have a good one. See you. God bless y'all.